Welcome to episode number 263 of the Beyond Social Media Show. This is the podcast for all of you marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. You can find us. Just search for us on Google, Beyond Social Media Show. You'll find a website, all the links to all of our channels there. We are recording live on YouTube on May 3, 2019. Topics this week include mental burgers, sonic branding, Survivor snaps, lying commercial, Creative Commons visual search, LinkedIn services, indexing fake news, YouTube everywhere, smartphone absurdity, fake privacy, alternative influence networks, poor shaming, and a lot more. BL kicks it off with the best story of the week, as you do every week. BL, what is the best story?
Well, I debated whether this one should be in the good stories or the bad stories, but May is Mental Health Month, and Burger King has mood burgers. It's got this whole slate of real meals, and they're named after real moods, like blue. There's a blue dinner and a salty dinner and a DGF dinner, and they touch on themes like bullying and teen pregnancy and student debt. I would have liked to be at the meeting where they said, how can we capitalize on Mental Health Month? But, that was why it was going to be in the negative section. But this is not the first time that they've blended marketing and a serious social issue. So it's the blue meal is if you feel down. The DGAF meal is if you just don't care. The pissed meal is if you're an angry eater. The salty meal is if you're a little bit upset. And the YAAS meal, well, okay, the last one is just another take on happy, but each of them comes with the same food, Whopper, fries, and a drink. So somebody said on Twitter, like, you want to make me happy, give me a double order of fries. And in the past, they had blank Whoppers to promote voting in Brazil, which wasn't happening. They had the pink tax, where they charged women more than men for hamburgers to bring attention to that happening. They called attention to bullying. They explained they had net neutrality burgers. They cheered on Saudi Arabia's first-time female drivers, and they promoted Peace Day with a Peace Day burger. So they coordinate. The reason that this is not just silly is that they coordinated with Mental Health America, and they are going outside the comfort zone of a lot of people, bringing out a message about mental health that people need to hear. So, but I'm with the guy who tweeted, just give me fries. And then someone else tweeted, if Burger King wanted to do something about mental health problems, they could just pay their workers more. Which,
well, I mean, it's kind of, I guess if they've been doing cause marketing like this for a while, then it's not out of character for them to do something like this.
Which is why I made it one of the good stories.
Right. But also, the burgers that they're branding, basically, it does sound kind of flippant for a mental health
serious issues
month awareness. If it was mental wellness, because happiness and stuff, that's all mental wellness. It might be a better fit, but
But I mean, Burger King, has had like really edgy ads from back in the day. I mean, it was Burger King that had the guy in the fishnet stockings. What was he called? Who would do what you told him to do?
Oh, yeah.
What was he called? I forgot. I mean, that was like one of the earliest great things on the internet, and now I can't remember his name, but I'll find it.
They also have the creepy Burger King.
Oh, isn't he the creepiest?
And they had the video game. They did a video game based on the Burger King. You could drive around as the Burger King in the video game. So yeah,
they really weird.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy. So my best story is not surprisingly about audio branding or audio logos. So, I mean, with the proliferation of smart speakers, voice activation, etc., everybody needs to start thinking about what's your audio brand, what's your sonic brand, how do you develop your sound that people build your brand through sound. Big brands have been doing it for a long time, so I'd like to share some examples of that. And we'll play a little game, and I'm going to play some audio logos from some famous brands and see if you can recognize who they are. So the first
Do I
one,
get a prize if I do?
I'll pat you on the head. So here's the first one, and let's see if you can recognize this one.
I have no idea.
Really?
Is that unless it's Apple?
No,
I
I'm
have
kind of surprised that you didn't get that one.
No. Who is it?
So that's THX. You go to the movies all the time, right?
I do, yeah.
So
I just went the other day.
This is, if you go to the movies within the past 10 years, you got to have heard that. That's the sound audio logo for THX. They're a sound recording company. They're owned by Lucasfilms. And so this sound often plays before movies. It's like, you go through the sets of brands before the movie actually starts playing. This is one of them that you'd hear. I'm kind of surprised you didn't get that one.
And I was just at the movies on Saturday seeing one of the worst movies in the history of the world. It was called Us. Don't see it.
Oh, no, that's a fantastic movie.
Oh my God.
Oh my
2 hours too long.
Oh my God. I can't believe you didn't like that movie.
We hated that movie.
Oh, it's a profound, brilliant movie. I can't. This
is for 20 minutes were profound. After that, it was just boring.
No, we have different movies. This is going off the rails. All right. So I can't believe you didn't like that movie. Anyway, here's the next one. Let's see if you recognize this one. And this one was recommended, I got to say, hat tip to Ron J. Miller, one of my Facebook friends and marketer here in the Twin Cities. So we'll play it and see if you can recognize this one. Could you hear that?
Yes, I could hear it, and I vaguely know what it is, but I can't name it.
Okay, so that is Intel. And for the listeners and not the viewers of the video, for the listeners of this podcast, it is we'll share this video on the show in the show notes, but it is packaging of Intel device where somebody is opening up the device, and as he opens up the device, the Intel dun 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 audio logo plays when he's opening up the packaging. So it's a great combination of using extending and enhancing the brand experience by incorporating this.
And I should have known that because why?
It's Intel. I mean, it's like any technology. You use a lot of technology, right?
Every day.
So you got.
I don't think I'm good at this game. Okay, give me another one.
This one you'll get. You'll get this one, DL. I
hope so. I'm starting to feel embarrassed.
And this one's was suggested by my friend Amy Bryant. So play it and hold on.
Oh, I definitely know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Microsoft.
Nope.
Oh, come on.
You watch movies, right?
I watch movies all the time.
That's Netflix.
Oh, God. Okay.
And this one's really old school. And this was suggested by Monica Melsha, my friend on Facebook, and just totally old school. So listen closely.
That's NBC.
There you go. So this is from audio. So I'm going to play the rest of this on this video that I found for the NBC chimes from 1933.
WEAF New York.
And that's a guy. That's a guy. They didn't have him recording it. He was actually playing the chimes and then speaking into the microphone over the radio. So yeah. So this is something that I've got a list of 13 that I've compiled. 13.
Okay, play some more. I have to get some of them.
I don't have any more lined up here, but I did a post with 13 of them that you can use as inspiration. But really, I've got to think what should our sound be like for the podcast? I mean, we have the intro music, but we don't have an audio logo. So what should I think? Say maybe POW, something that sounds like POW, because we have our logo that says POW on it.
Yeah, a kaboom sound.
Yeah, so I'll think about that. Maybe I'll pull out the synthesizer and
you have a synthesizer?
I do, indeed.
That's so cool. So I have a far more serious story, but a wonderful one. This is from a Washington Post video. And Henry Donovan and Sebastian Gubernator, who are graduates of the Axel Springer Academy, wanted to show young people what happened in the Holocaust so the stories would not be forgotten. And they decided that the way to do that was to go where young people are, which is Snapchat. So they're using Snapchat stories to, there's the cat, to tell these stories that they hope will not be forgotten with elderly Holocaust survivors. And I'm going to just turn off my sound and put the cat on a short timeout. I'll be right back.
Yeah, well, I don't have a cat, but if I did have a cat, well, Beal's away. I'll tell you what I would do with the cat while I was recording my podcast. I would take the cat, however well behaved the cat is, or if I had a dog, I'd do the same thing. I would take my pet, even if I had a gerbil. I would take my pet, and if I had fish, I don't think I'd do this, but if I had a gerbil, a hamster, a dog, a cat, or a chimpanzee, or any pet that could really make sounds that might interrupt my podcast, what I would do, and I'm just saying this is me, what I would do is I would put that pet in another room before the podcast started. That's what I would do so that it wouldn't interrupt my podcast. But that's just me. That's how I would do it. I'm probably gonna get a pet soon, so I'll probably have to practice doing that, putting my pet in another room while before the podcast comes. I may forget it, so this little diatribe could come back to haunt me, and we'll find out whether BL listens to this episode, and here's my little rant on how you should deal with your pets before you start your podcast. But yeah, so here's BL's back in line.
The damn cat was hard to catch.
Yeah, and BL, you're awfully blurry right now.
I'm gonna get unblurry.
Okay. So you were saying?
I was saying that the cat is a beast. What was I saying? I was saying that. I'm done with that. Let me go on to the next one. Right. There is now a search engine for Creative Commons. If you've ever looked through Creative Commons, it's been really hard to find things, although there are wonderful, wonderful things contained in Creative Commons. So a couple of months ago, this is from a TechCrunch story by Sarah Perez, and a couple of months ago they had a beta that was a search engine for their photos, their free archived material, and all of the materials in the public domain so that you don't have to worry about using it. And a lot of great photographers make their content available through Creative Commons. And there are different types of Creative Commons licenses. One is you can use it with attribution. The other is you don't need to use attribution. There's attribution with a link. So at the moment, the beta version is out, and there's 300 million images indexed, and they include Flickr and the New York Public Library and the Metropolitan Museum of Art and many, many others. The 300 million pictures, unimaginably, are pulled from 19 different collections. They include the Cleveland Museum of Art, Behance, DeviantArt, and even a set of CCO 3D designs from Thingiverse. And they say the image catalog is going to continue to grow. And they're going to add significant collections like Europeana and Wikimedia Commons. And, last year it started this redo, and eventually it wants to access, get this, 1.4 billion works. But that's going to take a little time, given that the work relies, this is the most incredible part, on volunteer developers who work alongside the engineering team. So we'll put a link in the show notes, and there's pretty much nothing you cannot find. There's video, there's photographs, there's illustrations. It's a wonderful resource.
It sounds like it. Do you know how they are indexing these images? I guess the question is, are they using visual computer vision to index it? Because that's a lot of content, and images don't always come with context about what's in the image. So how accurate is the search going to be, I guess is.
I don't know, but more accurate than what we're going to find on our own, I think.
Good. Right.
So
I got a great ad that HBO is running. So HBO's second season of Big Little Lies. Do you watch that, BL?
I do not. I've read a lot about it, but I haven't watched it.
It's really good.
I don't have HBO.
Okay, well, you maybe it's on Netflix, but it's a great show, and they are running a very clever ad. I just saw it on Twitter, and it features, so the background of the ad is a gentle ocean waters rolling, just gentle waves, and then over that appears the last names of the stars of the show one by one. And as they appear, they're stacked on top of each other. So first one is Kidman, the next one is Witherspoon, the next one is Woodley, then Kravitz, then Dern, and then Streep. So the last Meryl Streep has been added to this season, and so they just appear stacked on top of each other across the ocean waves. And it turns out it's an acrostic spelling out new lies. So the new season has new Big Little Lies. It airs June 9th. We'll embed this in the show notes so you can see the ad. It's awfully clever and well done. That's
very smart.
Yeah.
That really is. So apropos the Creative Commons, there is from Poynter an index of fake news sites. And the scary part about this is how many hundreds of them there are. And this is just phase one of the project. I will link to it, but they are letting you know what unreliable news sources are spreading information. And this is, imagine, more than 500 fake news sites, and this is just the beginning. There's going to be so many more added, and I hope people will look at it, because that's really the issue, is that people don't vet their sources. We talk about this every week, but it's the responsibility of users to vet the information that they spread before they spread it.
Yeah, I mean, well, find reputable news sources to get your political news from and stick with those sources. And I would say ignore any political news you find on social media, and just go directly to the reputable sources, because yeah, it's going to be rampant. It's going to be worse. It's going to only get worse. Until we find a solution, it's only going to get worse.
I tweeted last week, and I mean to stick to this, that I am no longer going to tweet about the president. I'm not going to react to stories about him, because it just feeds his ego. It just brings on more of the same. And this campaign, it's going to kill us if we engage in it in social media. You just can't. You just have to wait for facts to be clarified, and just not get down in the dirt with these people.
Yeah, well, a positive social media story here. This is from Matt Southern at Search Engine Journal, who reports that it appears that LinkedIn is trying out a new feature there, where you can add services to your LinkedIn profile. This appears to be something that would be very suited to freelancers or small business people, where you can add to your LinkedIn profile the services that you offer. And additionally, LinkedIn also appears to be testing out a find a service provider feature. So those two things would likely match up, connecting the services that you provide on your LinkedIn profile to this find a service provider feature. So that was spotted in the wild by somebody that Matt Southern reported on, but it looks like it's just being tested, so not available to everybody, but something to look for. It looks like a valuable
So
feature.
how will this differ from our listing of our services that we have in our profiles now? Is this going to be a separate section that's linkable?
It looks like it. I mean, it looks like it'll give more prominence to the services that you provide, rather than just putting keywords in your descriptions about the services that you offer. It looks like it would be a dedicated section of the LinkedIn profile. And then again, if they're coupling it with a find a service provider feature, then there's a search function that would likely be tied to those keywords of that section of your LinkedIn profile.
That is a very good idea. I like that. So I came across a really hilarious parody today about phone addiction, and this is from a Fast Company story by Joe Berkowitz. It's the ad is a parody of an app called Lookout, and it makes fun of our outrageous addiction to smartphones. And I really think that it's so slick, some people aren't going to realize that it's a joke, but it's ostensibly an extendable camera that you put on the back of your phone, and it projects a streaming feed of what's directly in front of you at all times, so you never have to look up from your phone. So finally, the ad says, a way to walk down the street without ever having to look up from one's phone. It lets you see what's in front of you, so you can drive to work while you read the morning paper, keep your eye off the ball while playing tennis. It activates when your life interferes with your screen time. So, what if the problem is not that we're always looking down, but that we ever have to look up at all, is how it ends. And it like gives you what's happening in front of you in the top quarter of your screen, so that you don't have to look at the street or whatever it is, because you can just keep reading your email or whatever it is you're doing, tweeting, and the world will just be there in that top part of your phone.
Well, we're getting there. It's called augmented reality. I mean,
Yeah, and the glasses and everything, but this is a joke, but it's done so slickly and so well that people, I guarantee you, some people will go look for how can they get it.
That's great. That's great. So I have two stories that are related that are great. One is from Kellen at Droid Life, who reports that Google is giving their smart speaker owners access to the free version of YouTube Music. So I use my Google speaker to play music all the time, but I have a Google Play, and I have uploaded my collection to Google Play so I can listen to everything in my collection. But this YouTube has obviously a zillion songs on it, so it's a much more expansive catalog. So if you have a Google Home speaker, just go to the Home app, tap on Services, then Music, and then choose YouTube Music as your default. And it'll dial up that. It is the free version of YouTube Music, so you're going to hear ads. but that's nice. And then another one, Alex Weprin of Media Post reports that in the coming months, Google will bring official YouTube and YouTube TV apps to Amazon Fire TV devices. So the Cold War between Amazon and Google over YouTube is apparently over. But no Echo Show devices. It didn't mention Echo Show in the article, which is the natural. I have the video Echo in my kitchen, and what I'd love to do is play YouTube videos that are recipes that I can follow along. It's a natural, but apparently I still can't. And then Amazon will bring Prime Video to Google Chromecast devices. So
At last.
very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I don't watch Prime videos, because I watch Chrome and I have a Chromecast and I can't play those. And if I don't want to sit in front of my computer, which I don't want to do, I can't watch Google Prime videos. So I don't have any more good news.
I'm done.
Well, this week was Facebook's F8 conference, and Mark Zuckerberg announced that the future is privacy. But this is from a story in the outline by Casey Johnson. And, he talked about privacy as the future, but he didn't say how it's going to happen. And all Facebook's privacy, even from us, meaning even from Facebook, promises are just smokescreens, and Johnson says we shouldn't fall for them. Anything that you delete is on Facebook is very, very different from deleting data from Facebook servers. Facebook does not need to see the content of what people are saying in order to advertise to them. The metadata, or who or what as a business you are talking to, or even where you are, or what time the conversation is happening, those are all enough information for you to be advertised to in perpetuity. And that information lets them make an educated guess about what you're interested in, to the point of knowing specifically what you're saying. That doesn't really add to it. So that's fake privacy. And similarly, Google made a big deal of announcing that you can delete your browsing history. And you could always do that, but they made it really hard. Now they're saying they're going to make it easy, but you can only do it after 3 months, when they've already extracted all your data and shared it with everybody on the planet. So don't believe everything you read about privacy.
Well, I mean, when Snapchat came out, and the appeal of Snapchat was the ephemeral content that it just disappears after. Nothing disappears.
Right.
They all go through servers, and servers save stuff, so you need to know that. But
nobody's offering to let us clear stuff off their server.
Right.
Exactly. And I mean, of course they're not, but that would create a whole nother set of problems. But that is a smokescreen. Oh, we're all about privacy now, and we're going to protect you. And no, they're not. They're going to sell to you, and they're going to follow you around the entire freaking internet for months with anything that you even mention to your friends. I mean, it's really crazy. But that's what makes the world of advertising go round, is our data that we freely gave up. Yep. So you have another one?
I have one, yes. This is a fascinating story. This is one of those things where it's not obvious until somebody points it out to you, and then it's obvious.
You wonder how you missed it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is a motherboard article by Caroline Haskins, and she writes about a report by Becca Lewis of the nonprofit research group Data and Society, an article or a report published titled, Alternative Influence Broadcasting the Reactionary Right on YouTube. So this is about how extremist content spreads on social networks, specifically in this case on YouTube. And the article argues that YouTube's problem with hate speech is largely a result of video collaborations. We think of it as an algorithmic thing, and there's issues with YouTube's algorithm recommendations. But this is more about how video collaborations work. You think about how podcasts work, the way to get an audience for your newly launched podcast is to be a guest on other people's podcasts that are related to what you talk about, and those listeners will naturally be interested in your podcast. And that's how people build audiences on podcasts often. It's basically the same dynamic with YouTube. So this report looked specifically at collaborations with influencers that have big audiences like Joe Rogan. So Joe Rogan is a huge podcaster, very conservative podcaster. He's one of the most popular podcasters. And he has as guests these far right fringe figures. What the report calls this dynamic is the alternative influence network. And this, by having all these guests that are far right figures, it builds a culture in which kind of the personal reliability and authenticity of the host legitimizes the guests. Right. So there's not any factual veracity. There's no institutional support. It's rather just building trust through rather than like journalists build trust through fact gathering and rigorously sourced information. These networks rely on the personality of the host, who position themselves as these down-to-earth cultural underdogs. So the talk show hosts like Rogan and Dave Rubin depend on these large number of guest stars to organically build their audience with their guest audiences. So even though they're not the center of this extremist content, the connections they build help spread that content. So they serve often as a gateway to more extreme users. So this strategy helps their guest stars become more palatable to their audience by building this human-to-human trust. And so the article says rebuilding YouTube's algorithm would be a fix, but it'd be a slow one. Reassessing YouTube's monetization platform could be an immediate solution. So they have booted like Logan Paul from the network they didn't boot him from the network, but booted him from their premium advertising platform, which allows them to make a lot more money a lot faster. But even so, they can still advertise and they're still on the platform. They can profit from lower value advertising. They can profit from creating sponsored content. They can sell merchandise through YouTube. So that's not a hard and fast solution. But the other extreme way to deal with it is deplatforming, is kicking people off the platform. So YouTube did kick off Alex Jones of InfoWars. Finally, yeah, but not for the hate speech that he usually spews, but for posting graphic content. It was a blow to Jones because he relied heavily on YouTube. But nevertheless, if what these people would do is use the platforms to build their own direct connections to their audiences. If they get the email lists, get emails from their audiences, then they've got their own direct connection to their audiences, and they don't ultimately need the platform to survive. So it's a difficult thing, but it's another way of thinking about how this content spreads, rather than what we usually do in an algorithmic way. So interesting article. We'll put a link to in the show notes.
Yeah, well, when somebody is on YouTube as a guest and you are able to use that video to drive traffic to other information off the platform, that's definitely a big part of it. And as we know, video is a great way to drive traffic to websites. And so, this is a circular kind of an issue. I mean, it's not one issue, it's many issues.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of scary. But so I have the Twitter debacle of the week. Chase Bank had an ad that they meant it as a joke, but apparently it backfired. And it was a poor shaming joke. I'll put a link to it. But VaynerMedia said that in the correction to the story, they said they didn't do it. This is a twist on blaming the intern. An internal social media team was the guilty party in this case. I mean, usually you blame the intern, but here we're blaming the internal social media team.
So VaynerMedia was the one who created the post for their client, and the agency is saying we didn't do it. It was them that did it.
That's correct.
Oh my God. Wow.
That's why it's in the worst examples of the week.
Do you think the contract is going to be renewed?
Oh, I'm sure it will. I'm absolutely sure it will. These things come and go. I mean, that's why I called it the debacle of the week, because next week there'll be another one, and this will be forgotten, and they'll go on. I mean, I don't think this was a big enough deal to
Yeah, but if you're blaming your client for a
Hey, blaming the client, it's a new angle. I mean, you got to give them credit for that one. So does that bring us to shiny objects, Dave?
It does.
Okay, I got a bunch of them actually, and I just went right by them. Yes, the first one is Red Circle, which is a cross-promotion platform for smaller podcasts, and this is an interesting idea. They want to they will host your podcast for free and distribute it for free. And then you can sign up to cross-promote your podcast with other podcasts. This has always worked well in blogs. In the early days of blogging, people would cross-promote one another's blogs and send traffic to each other. And we used to keep, what were they called, blog logs, the blogs that we liked. They were down the side panel. I forget what that was called. The blog roll, that's what it's called.
Blog roll, yeah.
Yeah. And, this is a similar concept, and they want to host you for free. And that's an issue for people who are just starting out in podcasting. And they'll distribute your show to iTunes and so on, which is a helpful service. So it's worth taking a look at.
Interesting. So are they distributing podcasts? They're hosting the podcast for you for free and distributing the podcast through their own iTunes channel?
Sure it is.
So you're not getting credit for your own.
No, you are getting credit for it. No, that it's not their own channel. You are getting credit for it, and you are getting your stats and all of that. It's I don't know what their financial model is.
Okay.
I would guess they have advertising on the podcast. I don't know.
It's always a good question to ask, right?
Yeah, I can ask any startup.
Speaking of financial models, we've talked about Feedly, and we both use Feedly, and it is the best alternative to the dearly departed Google Reader. Damn Google. So I use it every day, but I had a project come up where I needed more out of Feedly, so I bought the Feedly Pro. So mine is Feedly Pro. It's all of Feedly and more. So you get unlimited sources as opposed to 100 that you get with the free version. Google keyword alerts are built in, so you can do keyword alerts right within Feedly, and it'll show up as a feed. You can add notes and highlights. You can share to LinkedIn, Buffer, If This Then That, Zapier, and Hootsuite. So with Zapier and If This Then That, there's a lot of things you can do with that after you send it to them. So that's a pretty cool feature. You can save to Evernote, Pocket, and OneNote. You get new articles 10 times faster. You can hide sponsored ads. I don't really care about that. You get premium support. Never really needed the support, but
what would you ask them?
Yeah. This is it is very helpful for what I need to do, because I need to stay on top of I'm doing a lot of curating for this project, so I need to stay on top of a lot of sources, and I need to know when something breaks immediately. So this is very helpful with that. It's only $65 a year, so it's pretty good value for the price. But there you go, Feedly Pro if you need it.
That's very good. $65 a year for that. That sounds great. So there's been 10 updates to the Associated Press style book, and they include directions for do you say straight-laced, STRAIT, or STRAIGHT? Do you say bologna, BOLOGNA, or baloney, BALONEY? When you talk about augmented reality versus virtual reality, do you know what you're talking about? So they have the styles that they are recommending, plus stories about why. And so take a look at this. Actually, I got this from a PR Newswire story, but it's worth a look, and it's a fun post.
Interesting. So my answer is bologna. Bologna is when you're talking about the food, and baloney is when you're talking about somebody who's full of crap. Is that
That's
right?
exactly right. And straight-laced is when you're actually lacing up your garment, and straight-laced is when somebody is actually rather conservative, and I don't mean politically.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
So do you have another one?
I don't.
I came across the new promotion trailer for the upcoming Clinton Foundation podcast, which is going to be called Why Am I Telling You This? And the trailer is a 2-minute story about the podcast, which is going to start this summer, and it's going to have Bill Clinton and Chelsea Clinton and a bunch of other people. But above all else, Bill Clinton is a master storyteller, and this title comes from, he would say in the midst of a speech, he'd say, "Why am I telling you this?" And then he would explain what the complex issue that he was explaining meant. And so he's so great at simplifying complex issues and telling stories. And he says that comes from his childhood growing up in Georgia, where people tell stories really well, and his family did. But whatever, he's great at it. And the trailer is very entertaining. And that's something kind of new for podcasts.
Very cool. I can't wait for that.
Yeah. I also have a political one, which is hilarious.
Okay.
It's the latest parody from Randy Rainbow, and this time it's about Barr, and he sings about him in his normal outrageous way. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. I mean, he's just so spot on every time, and he's so completely outrageous and funny and smart.
All right. Well, I got a political one too, and this is the one that everybody's talking about this week. Netflix's documentary, "Knock Down the House," which is follows the story of 4 women who took on history in the 2018 midterm elections. And so it's a fascinating. If you are interested in politics, it's a fascinating insight into challenger campaigns. For politics, they're all Democrats, obviously. The players, the candidates are Paula Jean Swearingen, Cori Bush, who was inspired to run in the wake of the Ferguson, Missouri lack of accountability in all that happened there. Amy Villia, whose daughter died after being denied medical treatment due to a lack of insurance. And of course, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So one, there's the insight into what it's like mounting a challenger campaign. And two, I always pay attention to politics, not because I'm a political junkie, which I am, but because often the innovations in communications come from challenger campaigns. And so, that's where you get the leading edge of what's next. And so paying attention to watching this documentary is an interesting insight into political communication as well. So there you go. Watch it on Netflix. We'll put a link to this trailer in the show notes.
That's on my wish list on Netflix for this weekend. It's going to rain all weekend long, just like it's been dreary and cold all week in New York City. It's going to be that way on the weekend too, except for the one day when it was 80 degrees. But the weather makes no sense anymore, but Netflix does. And so I have a list of things I want to get to watch this weekend.
Well, we got to 70 and sunny tomorrow, so I'm playing football. It's going to be glorious. So
lucky you, because weren't you having snow last week?
Yeah, well, maybe we'll have snow next week, but this weekend
you never know. It snowed some parts of New York State this weekend. This week.
So let's wrap this up. Daily numbers, the most popular email clients. This comes from Litmus, and the 10 email clients worldwide, based on their share of email opens in March of this year. Top of the list is Apple iPhone with 28%. Gmail is next with 26%. Outlook follows with 9%, and then Apple iPad is tied with Outlook at 9%. Apple Mail is 8%. Yahoo Mail is 7%, and then around the bottom 2 and 1%ers. The 2%ers are Outlook.com, Google Android, Samsung Mail, and Thunderbird is at 1%. So
yeah. I'm confused. You're saying these are the emails that are opened the most, or the platforms that are used the most?
Top 10 email clients based on the share of email opens in March 2019. So, I mean, the most active clients would be the ones where people are opening up their emails the most, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they're basing the popularity on. It's opens.
I'm surprised AOL's even on the list anymore.
It's not.
Oh, I thought it was at the bottom.
No, Android.
Android, okay.
Yep. But one last bit from this, though, too, which is interesting. Platform share of email opens. This is from December 2018. Desktop got 18%. Webmail got 39%. And mobile got 43%. So desktop, I assume, means software, like you've installed Microsoft Office as software and you're using it on your desktop, as opposed to webmail going into Outlook.com or whatever and getting your mail. But then mobile at 43%. So mobile leads the pack there.
Actually, people use, I mean, I have a client who uses their host's webmail. God only knows why, but they do. And I switched them to Gmail, which caused some confusion for a couple of days there. But there are many people who actually use their provider's webmail.
Yeah.
And it's almost always super clunky, and I don't know why you would, but there you go. So that brings us to the end of episode 268 of the Beyond Social Media Show. And you can find us by searching Beyond Social Media Show or telling your smart speaker to play Beyond Social Media Show for you. And that's New York City in the background there. They just wanted you to know where I was. You'll find, good God.
They're after you, BL.
Every time I hear that, I think, now
somebody's
what?
knocking at the door. Gonna kick down the door. Battering ram down the door. Get BL for radical podcasts.
Yeah, right. So you'll find links to all of our shows and this show, BeyondSocialMediaShow.com/268. And we'd love for you to let us know what you think about the show by leaving us a review on iTunes. David Erickson, my co-host, is on Twitter as D. Erickson. He's on Instagram as DE Erickson. He is on YouTube as eStrategy, and he blogs at the wonderful eStrategyblog.com. I'm BL Ochman. I'm on Twitter as What's Next. I blog at What's Next blog, or I will as soon as I get this damn sling off my arm. What's Next blog on YouTube. The show, BeyondSocialMediaShow.com, and at BS Media Show on Twitter. Of course, we're on LinkedIn and everywhere else, and we're on YouTube, which is where we are right now. And we thank you for watching tonight, and we hope you will look for the podcast wherever you like to listen to your podcasts, iTunes, iHeartMedia, Google Play. We're in all of them, and we will see you next week. Same time, same bat channel. Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching.